Sci-Fi Center, and welcome to the very first edition of the Sci-Fi Center Presents Cover Story. Now, as a young collector and then on later in life as a comic book retailer, the covers are the most important part of a comic book, in my opinion. It's the first thing that a customer sees. It's the first thing that a collector sees. It can tell you a lot about the comic book before you even open it up. It can tell you if something important is going to happen, if there's a guest star, if it's the first issue or the climactic issue. There's a lot that you can learn just from looking at a comic book from its cover. Today's very first subject is going to be Amazing Spider-Man 323. It's done by Todd McFarlane, one of my favorite artists of all time, and this is one of my favorite covers of all time, and I happen to have this signed by him from Comic-Con 2023. So let's get into it. Released in the summer of 1989. Even though it has a November cover date, that's just how they did it back then. This was when Spider-Man was on a bi-weekly basis, so every 2 weeks was being released. Amazing Spider-Man 323 was part 4 of a 6-part storyline called The Assassination Plot. Now, all of these covers in the storyline were brilliant, including my second favorite McFarlane cover, which was the one with the Red Skull and Spider-Man standing on front of it with the torn flag. But we're going to start with this one. The cover includes the basics that's on any comic. In the upper left-hand corner, you have the logo Spider-Man, whoever is in that particular comic book. On the lower left-hand side, in the McFarlane era, he generally had who was ever the villain or whoever was a special guest character. This time it's Captain America. This was significant because, as far as I know, this is Todd McFarlane's first interpretation of Captain America, and one of the most colorful characters in comics being a guest in arguably the most colorful character of all time in Spider-Man was a big deal. Also on the lower left or lower right is the signature of the artist. In this case, it's Todd McFarlane. Now, the cover itself and the background is nothing really special about it. It's basically an orange background, but what it does is it highlights everything you need to know about this particular issue itself. The guest star being the most prominent part of the story. Captain America's insertion into this story was a big turning point in it. So he is in the foreground, but in the background is our hero, our main character, Spider-Man. Every choice that Todd McFarlane made in making this cover highlighted the other. He could have done a lot with this background, but he decided just a plain background and the two primary characters in the front. That's why it's one of my favorites. You look at any other Todd McFarlane covers, there's a lot going on some of them, but some of the best ones ever are basically just one or two subjects in the front, the hero, the villain, and that's it. A lot of times you'll see when you're trying to signify there's a special guest in here, other than him being on the cover itself, he or she, you're going to have the text of that particular character. In this case, it's Captain America, written in the Captain America text that he's known for in his own comic book. But overall, this cover does exactly what a comic book cover should do. It lets you know there's a big wig, important character guest starring in the comic book. Everything else, verbiage-wise, tells you where you're at in the story, Assassination Plot, Part 6, what issue it is, how much it is, all the basics. But once again, this is the very first thing you see when you walked into a comic book store or even on those racks in the 7-Elevens and the supermarkets. The cover is very, very important. All right, that's it for our very first The Sci-Fi Center Presents cover story. If there's a particular cover that you would like to see me cover, please leave it in the comment section and I'll do my best to get to it. And also, while you're here, please like and subscribe and turn on that alert bell so that you hear about all of our content. And spread the word. If there's a fellow geek you think is into our gospel, let them know about us. And thank you.